Hey guys, welcome back to the Woddoc Project365, episode 65. Today we're moving back downstream, just like I promised. We're going to hit the hip, and we're going to specifically focus on the hip capsule itself. Now, there's a whole bunch of hip flexion exercises, but when we're trying to focus on the capsule, we're going to use a band here, so that way we can enforce as much pressure as we can on the capsule itself. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit of anatomy. Don't mind my skeleton here. It looks like he hit the bottom of the squat a little too hard. His hip busted open. I want you to focus on this side right here, just to orientate yourself just a little bit. What this is, your hip bone, your ilium right here. This is where your femur comes in, and this is kind of forms your acetabulum. Now, what this little shiny stuff is saran wrap, really, but what it's representing is the hip capsule itself. Now, the hip capsule is this piece of fibrous tissue that kind of works in conjunction with the hip joint itself, or most joints in that matter, as kind of this like cohesive, dense connective tissue that keeps everything centrated and put together. Now, it gives the joint itself some stability and some sturdiness. As you can see, I'm going to take this off really quick. And what you're going to see is the joint itself becomes much more loose, much more flimsy, and it kind of moves around a lot all over the place, right? So what I want you guys to notice here is to put the most pressure on the joint capsule itself that we can. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to distract it and then flex it. So to give you guys just a little bit of a perspective, it's going to look like this. We're going to be laying on our back. We're going to bring our knee up in the air with a distracted hip. And that's going to allow us to really band up or tighten up or twist that capsule itself and help mobilize it. Now, capsules are really, really cool, right? But because they give us hip stability and joint stability, but the problem is with multiple loading, repetitive stress exercises, much like CrossFit, they can get fibrous and thicker than they should be. When that happens, they lose some of their flexibility, their extensibility, and then we get all these hip type problems. So here's what we're going to do to combat that. We got ourselves a band, just like this. We're going to stick our leg through the band. And remember what I said, that the joint kind of comes out at like a 45-degree angle. If you recognize from right here, the femur itself kind of comes out at like this 45-degree angle like such. So we're going to replicate that to get this maximal stretch. I'm not going to stay straight just like this. I'm going to kind of put myself at this little bit of an angle. And this sucker has a heck of a stretch to it. So you can see, I got some good pressure. Now the difference between getting a hip flexion stretch muscular and getting it on the capsule is what I'm going to do first, or what I'm going to do for the capsule, is I'm going to just bring my hip or my knee to my chest as far as I can. I want to take out all that excess range of motion. And then all I'm going to do with this distraction or this pulling out of my hip, big chunk of meat here, so I got this capsule, or this capsule stretch as much as I can. I'm going to take up all that tension, and then all I'm going to do is pull a couple degrees into like that soft barrier. And I'm going to relax, pull a couple degrees into that soft barrier. I'm going to repeat this about 20 to 30 times. Just this little tiny knee to chest flossing type action as this band distracts us. Guys, and that's what we're going to do to loosen up that hip capsule. So what I want you guys to do, go home, or sometime tonight, spend about 2 to 4 minutes doing 20 to 30 of those hip flossing capsule stretches, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, we're optimizing function to optimize performance.